Hello and welcome everyone to our workshop today on the new science of age-related sleep problems. My name is Julia Lundstrom and I'm a neuroscience and brain health educator, and I'm so happy to be here today to talk to you about how to improve your sleep. Whether you have off nights here or there, insomnia, sleep apnea, or even restless leg syndrome, I'm going to share with you the latest independent scientific information and solutions to help you sleep. Sleep is such a critical problem in this country, and it is so critical for your memory and brain health. 65% of Americans get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, and 40% of Americans get less than 6 hours sleep a night. But this wasn't always the case. In 1942, the average American slept 7.9 hours. Now it's down to 6.8 hours. More than half of all people aged 65 and older experience sleep problems, and that can cause excessive sleepiness during the day, attention and memory problems, depressed moods, falls, physical function, and a much lower quality of life. And yet, only 10% of people prioritize sleep over other goals like exercise and nutrition. But if it's such a problem, why aren't more people making this a priority? We're going to look into that today because we know that good sleep equals a better quality of life at every age. I want to give you a rundown on what we're going to cover today. Our overall goal for this workshop for the next hour or so is to go over what new science is telling us on how much sleep you need, when you need it, and how to get it uninterrupted. And this last bit is key. I want you to walk away with a game plan of what you're going to try the next time you're struggling with sleep, and that may just be tonight for a lot of you. Most people have heard of the standard sleep hygiene advice, so I'm going to cover that, but only lightly so that we can get into more of the in-depth solutions. We'll look into acute insomnia, which is short-term sleep problems. We'll talk about why it happens and how to fix it. This acute or non-chronic insomnia is completely normal. And Michael Perillis, director of the Behavioral Sleep Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, says that over a 4-year period, 100% of adults will have experienced acute insomnia. So I know this is relevant. I'll give you solutions for when that happens to you. We'll also talk about more severe cases of sleep problems like chronic insomnia, restless leg syndrome, and sleep apnea. Most importantly, we're going to look at how to fix and alleviate these issues based upon your age, as people of different age brackets have different challenges, especially those over age 65. So first, let's go through some housekeeping items. On the side of the video or on the bottom of the video, if you're on mobile, you'll see a chat functionality. Feel free to put in your questions there as we go. I have my health specialist, Kelly, here to answer your individual questions. So everyone say, hi, Kelly. Go ahead and type that in. Depending on how many questions she gets, she may or may not be able to get to your questions during the workshop today. So you can hit the Ask a Question button, and she'll email you back as soon as she can when the workshop's over. If you look below the chat, whether you're on desktop or mobile, you'll see 3 dots next to the chat word. Click that to be able to ask a question, because we want to get to everyone's questions. So again, if yours isn't getting answered, please hit that question button and she'll email you an answer back. So who am I? As I said, I'm a neuroscience and brain health educator. Through my books and newsletters, multiple workshops and speaking engagements, I've helped over 150,000 people make measurable improvements to their memories and brain health. My mission is to help 1 million people improve their brain health measurably. Things are moving so fast. Doctors know much more today than they knew just a few years ago around sleep. And it's my pleasure to bring this new information to you in a format you can take action on. So let's jump right in. The first thing I want to clarify is how bad are your sleep problems? So let's go through a few definitions so you know where you fall, and then you'll know which section to really focus your attention on. There are minor variations, but in general, adults really do need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night to ensure optimal physical and mental functioning. And most people who think the rules don't apply to them are simply wrong. Now, there is a gene that only 5% of the population has that allows you to need less than the recommended amount of sleep. But it's probably not you if you're here and worried about your sleep. If you think it's you, I encourage you to get tested, because if you're not getting the recommended sleep you need and you don't have this gene, you could be doing massive damage to your brain and body. Most people have general problems trying to either fall asleep or stay asleep or not being able to get enough uninterrupted sleep. And that's a lot of what we'll cover today. I already mentioned acute insomnia, which is difficult falling asleep or staying asleep for 3 nights or more a week for at least 2 consecutive weeks, but less than 3 months. Again, 100% of people will experience this over a 4-year period. Chronic insomnia is the same as acute insomnia, having trouble falling or staying asleep for at least 3 nights a week, but it lasts more than 3 months. For some people, it's decades. Other issues with sleep are restless leg syndrome, which is a common condition of the nervous system that can cause an overwhelming, irresistible urge to move your legs or arms and can be quite uncomfortable at night, and certainly it disrupts your sleep. And finally, we're going to go over sleep apnea. This is one area I'm personally passionate about because it is so easily fixable. More than 20 million people suffer from it in the US, but only 10% have been identified and treated, and it is a silent killer. We'll talk about how to know if you have it and how to fix it today. So why should you prioritize sleep over nutrition and exercise? Often, we think we're missing out on a lot by sleeping, but in fact, we're missing out on far more by not sleeping. Sleeping is one of the most productive things we can do. We don't grow when we're at work or in the gym, we grow at night while we're sleeping. Sleep is critical for so many functions in life. People who don't get enough sleep perform worse on just about everything, from sticking to a diet to making decisions. Sleep is the most important life support there is. In a study published in 2018, researchers tracked 10,000 people's sleep patterns while also testing their cognition and memory. They found that those who normally slept 7 to 8 hours a night scored the highest, regardless of their age or gender. The age part is also very key, but I'll come back to that in a minute. People who consistently slept for either fewer or more hours were equally impaired. The more part is something that isn't addressed very often, but getting too much sleep, unless you're a high-performance athlete, is also very dangerous. Reasoning, problem-solving, and verbal abilities were the most affected in these studies. So think about that. If you're having trouble figuring things out, or planning your day, or making decisions, or troubleshooting areas in your life, maybe you need to look more closely at your sleep. You might think you're functioning fine, but you're not at your best when you don't get enough sleep. The long-term ramifications are even scarier. For participants who reported sleeping 4 hours or less, their cognitive test results declined as much as if they had aged 8 years. You can think of sleep as a credit card. You spend more than you make and you go into debt one year. The next year, if you make just as much as you spend, you're still going to be in debt. Your accumulated sleep debt, the amount of sleep you need compared to the amount you get, can build over decades. And this sleep debt can increase the severity of conditions like diabetes and hypertension and even obesity, and can lead to heart attacks, strokes, and dementia long term. In the short term, it's just as bad. Your pain threshold falls about 15% after just 1 night of bad sleep. And if you're at all worried about your memory, sleep may be the reason. We can put in all the work in the world while we're awake, but if we don't sleep, literally much of it is lost. Sleep is when all the memories we created for the day get consolidated and stored. It's when our memories stick. Whether it's listening to this workshop or even your daughter's wedding or something as mundane as watching a TV show, if you don't sleep, you literally won't be able to remember it. Your brain at night takes all the memories you created during the day and stores them. But it takes a while to do this. So if you're only sleeping 6 hours, that's 1 to 2 hours of memory consolidation gone. Your precious memory is gone forever. Actually, this is why some researchers believe we dream. As we're consolidating our memories, it plays like a movie reel in no particular order as it figures out what and where we should be storing these memories in our brain. We also now know that sleep isn't just important for processing intellectual knowledge, but for how we process emotions. Just losing a couple of hours one night makes a significantly angrier and short-tempered the next day. My husband and I are very aware of this. We travel overseas often, and the jet lag combined with the day-to-days of having a toddler impairs our sleep. And it took us a while to learn that pretty much everything drives us crazy about each other when we're tired after a flight or when we've been up all night with our son. So now we can usually just chalk it up to being sleep deprived, laugh it off, and move on. For a 2018 study, Iowa State University psychologist Zlatan Krizan had 2 groups do repetitive tasks while being exposed to irritating background noise. Then half slept for 7 hours, while the rest slept for 2 to 4 hours less. When they repeated the task the next day, complete with the irritating noises, those who had been sleep restricted expressed far more anger and frustration than those who'd had enough sleep. I think we know this. He explained that sleep-deprived individuals simply have fewer resources to manage negative emotions, making them prone to increased reactivity. When you're deprived, you're more likely to focus on the negative as well, which can not only increase the risk for depression and anxiety, but can also eat away at your resilience and willpower. I think most of us have experienced this. Our negative thought patterns can spiral out of control when we're tired. Instead, it's believed that REM or dream sleep acts like overnight therapy. Research shows that sleep also enhances how we recall not just emotions, but emotional events. And this may be the one instance where poor sleep can actually be a good thing. Soldiers coming back from war that got poor sleep while at war had less instances of PTSD. It turns out that maybe some memories are good not to store. But for most of us, and those same soldiers when they return, it's the most important thing you can do for your health. The best athletes in the world prioritize sleep just as much as they prioritize their training sessions. So let's look at what actually happens in your brain while you sleep. Whether it's an injury or simply a stressful day, the reason sleep is so helpful in helping your brain and body recover comes down to growth hormones and blood flow. After about 1 hour of sleep, anabolic hormones start to flood your system. Testosterone and the human growth hormone, both of which are integral to muscle and bone growth, are released after the first REM cycle and stay elevated until after you wake. Growth hormones stimulate growth, of course, but they also aid in cell reproduction, cell regeneration, and regulation of your body's metabolism to literally repair you while you sleep. Of course, your body and brain are resting more while you're asleep than you're awake, so your energy consumption is also lowered. This means more energy can be used to restore your bones and muscles and cells through this increase in growth hormone production and by an increase in the blood flow to the area in need. Actually, our brains are more active sleeping than they are watching TV. Just think about that for a second. TV literally is more brain dead than sleeping. But more on TV later. When you're in a deep sleep, around 40% of the usual blood flow to the brain is sent instead to your muscles to help restore energy and repair them from any damage from the day. The hormone prolactin is also released during deep sleep, which has anti-inflammatory properties to help further recover any achy joints or illness. And these hormones are critical for the process for physical repair of your body called protein synthesis. So if you're not sleeping enough, much of the protein you eat simply goes to waste. Makes you think, right? If you're eating the perfect diet for you to be strong and healthy and have great brain health, if you're not getting enough sleep, a lot of that simply goes to waste. Most of the critical benefits of sleep come in the later stages of sleep, known as REM, or rapid eye movement. REM makes up only about 20 to 25% of our overall sleep. The longer we sleep, the greater proportion of it is in REM. That's because REM time increases with each sleep cycle. So those sleep hours, 7 to 9, the hours most of us don't get, are actually the most powerful. Just like the increase of benefits to our brains, the longer we sleep adds more benefits to our bodies. In the later sleep cycles, we receive another boost of anabolic hormones. These are the same hormones that so many athletes have chosen to artificially give their bodies through steroids, or otherwise known as doping. In other words, you can get the same benefits as the dopers simply by sleeping a few additional hours. Of course, the hormones your body produces, unlike the synthetic ones, are great for your body. In a 2011 study from Stanford University, they asked varsity basketball players to track their regular sleep for 2 to 4 weeks to collect a little baseline data. Then they were told to focus on getting as much sleep as possible for the next 6 to 7 weeks. On average, they slept about an additional hour and 50 minutes every single night, so almost 2 hours. The results from the additional sleep were profound. They sprinted 4% faster, they shot with 9% better accuracy, and showed significantly faster reaction time. To top it off, they won 26 games that year, up from just 15 the year before, and won the IT title and got into the NCAAs. They replicated the test with varsity swimmers and had the exact same results. So now that we know the importance of sleep and what it does for your brain and body, let's go into solutions for getting a lifetime of good sleep. We'll start very general, and then we'll get more specific as we go along. Let's build a better night's sleep together. I've heard so many times from customers that they've tried everything and nothing has worked. This is the first thing to overcome. It's not just about one thing or one trick. Most often, getting a good night's sleep every single night is about a full combination of things. You need to look at it holistically, meaning looking at the whole picture. The first step is to do a sleep audit. As I talk about these individual solutions, write them down and go walk into your room to see what you're doing wrong, as well as think about what applies to you and what you're committed to changing to prioritize your sleep. So first, let's figure out how much sleep you personally need. I say it all the time, I'm a 9-hour girl. I am the best version of myself after 9 hours of sleep. So for you to figure this out, go for 10 to 14 days going to sleep when you're tired and waking up without an alarm clock. Take the average sleep time, and that's what you need. With our hectic lives, that isn't always an easy task, but I'll share an easy solution later when I talk about rest. Falling asleep as soon as your head hits the pillow is not proof that you're a good sleeper. Actually, I had to tell my husband that yesterday. It's more likely an indication that you're sleep deprived. In general, it should take about 10 to 20 minutes for a person to fall asleep, and usually it's a little bit longer for women. Most of the stress around falling asleep is all in your head, because whether it takes you 20 minutes or 45 minutes to fall asleep, you just have to think it's too long for it to be too long, and it creates more stress. So the first step is to look at your weekly sleep, not your nightly sleep. Don't stress over one single night. You can make up short-term sleep debt. Just remain calm and consistent. If you're a 9-hour sleeper like me, then that means you need 63 hours a week of sleep. If you had a bad night's sleep or you lose 4 hours one night, make up for it over the next 6 days by sleeping a little bit longer or taking well-timed naps, or get a couple of extra hours on the weekend. In a 38,000 person study, those who slept slightly fewer than optimal hours during the week and an extra hour or two on the weekends lived as long as those who consistently hit their nightly target. But if you have more chronic sleep deprivation or are starting to realize that the last 30 years of only sleeping 5 to 6 hours a night is wreaking havoc on your life and health now, you need a more committed change. So let's run through a sleep audit. First, the first step is awareness. Keep a sleep diary. Record your bedtime, when you fall asleep, how many times you wake up, your total sleep duration, any nightmares you have, the quality of your sleep, and any other significant events affecting your sleep. A good sleep tracker app for your phone or a Fitbit or other sleep tracking bracelet makes this really, really easy. A fantastic side benefit of the sleep tracker is reassurance, because a lot of people believe they're hardly getting any sleep. It's a phenomenon known as paradoxical insomnia. And a tracker can lessen this anxiety and hopefully set these people on a path to get more rest. The next step in your sleep audit is to look at your lifestyle. 200 years ago, we went to sleep with the sun and woke up with the sun, unless you're in places like Sweden where the sun goes down at 11 p.m. and back up at 2:30 a.m. in the summer. I lived there for 4 years and I never got used to that. But now we do more and more at night and stay up later and later. If you're working immediately before bedtime, that's the first thing to stop. Even watching TV or reading an ebook is a terrible idea right before bed. The blue light coming off the screen keeps us up for hours after. We can rebound from a room with light bulbs, but blue light is so much more difficult to recover from. The blue light throws off our circadian rhythm. Depending on how much we get, it can actually shift us by as much as 6 hours. One recent study at Harvard, researchers had participants read from a real book or an ebook 4 hours prior to going to bed. Not for 4 hours, 4 hours before. After just 5 days, the differences between the two groups was depressing. Those that read from the ebook were far less sleepy. They experienced a 90-minute delay in the release of melatonin, making it harder for them to fall asleep and making them feel less rested and more groggy when they woke up. The scariest part, that this came from just 5 days of using an ebook 4 hours before bedtime. And these were pleasure books, not work-related. Imagine what happens if you're sending emails or you're working right before bed. Blue light is detrimental to your sleep. Combine that with everyday stress and a racing mind, and it becomes easier to understand why we're sleeping less than ever. And actually, dozing off in front of a screen, as 61% of adults say they do, is a problem as well. Ken Wright, director of sleep and chronobiology at the University of Colorado Boulder, says that light from the TV can go through your eyelids, so your brain still processes that you're being exposed to light. We'd expect that this would lead to more fragmented sleep and more arousals throughout the night, when your heart races or your brain waves speed up. My recommendation, keep the TV, cell phone, computer, or anything that emits a blue light off at least 1 hour prior to bedtime. That may mean reading an old-fashioned book before bed or taking up another hobby like drawing, which is what I recently started to learn, or meditation to shut off your mind before you go to bed. We've all heard the usual sleep hygiene habits, but let's review those quickly. Here are some tips consolidated from the world's leading researchers. First, go to bed at the same time every night. If you feel yourself getting drowsy, don't fight it. Whatever you're doing can wait until the morning. So you want to make sure that your bedroom is as dark as possible. Even consider our blackout blinds, like if you're in Sweden in the summer. If you struggle with a racing mind, try a meditation before bed. Use your bed only for sex and sleep. We've all heard that. Avoid caffeine from mid-afternoon on. Have some sleepy time tea before bed. Stay away from alcohol. Don't take naps if you're having acute insomnia. Keep all phones out of your room, TVs too. Keep your room cool, around 61 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Turn the clock around so that you don't know what time it is if you wake up in the middle of the night. And stop drinking any liquids 2 hours before bed if you get up to use the restroom in the middle of the night. Do not lie in bed if you can't fall asleep or can't get back to sleep. If this happens to you, just go with it. Yes, it's frustrating that you're awake, but you need to get out of bed. If you lie in bed awake, you'll have a new problem. Your bed will become a conditioned stimulus for wakefulness. So, after just trying to sleep for 20 or 30 minutes, stand up and move to another room and then do something completely mundane but that you enjoy, not involving a screen. Will you be awake longer? Yes, and that's a good thing. You build sleep pressure to help you sleep better the next night. Remember, it's about the week, not the individual night. And if you're sleep deprived, you're most likely dream deprived too. Ruben Naiman, a clinical professor at the University of Arizona Center for Integrative Medicine, says that when you don't give yourself enough time to cycle through the 5 phases of sleep, REM in the earlier progressively deep stages, REM is sacrificed first. Those with apnea or insomnia likely have disrupted REM sleep, he says. Same with those people that are using alcohol and cannabis and many antidepressants, or even some sleeping pills. They all interrupt REM sleep. Alarm clocks also erode dream time. They're like dream killers. It's like turning the light on and shutting off the projector 10 minutes before the end of a movie. I probably haven't used an alarm clock in 10 years, and it's remarkable how dependable my internal clock is. It just wakes me up. Okay, full disclosure, I do use an alarm if I have a very early morning flight to catch, but that's maybe a few times a year. So now let's look at your daytime. A good night's sleep starts in the morning, I like to say. Some people are morning people, and well, some people just aren't. True night owls and true morning people make up a full 50% of the population. We all have our own natural rhythm that tends to dictate the timing of biological activities like sleep and hormone release, and even athletic ability. Wouldn't it be nice if life let us sleep whenever our body dictated that was okay? But for most of us, and a lot of you, that is a possibility that just doesn't exist. My toddler won't let me sleep past 7 no matter how much I need it. Fortunately, I go to bed with him usually at 8:30 at night, so usually I'm up way before he is. But there are those rare occasions, on a night out, I sure wish he'd let me sleep in. But luckily, I get my optimal sleep the rest of the week, so a night here or there again with less sleep usually doesn't affect me much. With practice, natural night owls can change their body's processes to better function in a 9-to-5 world. You've most likely heard of your circadian rhythm. That's your body's internal processes that regulates your sleep and awake cycle. And it repeats pretty much every 24 hours. This rhythm is based on light and darkness and the release of the sleep hormone melatonin. By controlling the first 2 of these, light and darkness, the third should fall in line to help reset one's clock. I have a friend that hasn't slept well in a decade. I mean, really poorly. She's fallen into depression many times since I've known her the last 5 or 6 years. Unfortunately, she's doing everything wrong around her sleep. She's obese and has chronic health issues. So she stays inside the whole day with the blinds pulled down and is almost completely shut off. She's antisocial and she watches the TV the whole day. As you can imagine, it pains me that she won't take small steps to improve her sleep, like simply opening her blinds in the morning and spending more time off the screen, and even being more social. Depression is a hard downward spiral to break. But I know just even keeping the room light would shift so much for her. That darkness or any darkness signals your body to release melatonin and kickstarts the physiological process that promotes sleep, like your body temperature going down. Exposure to natural daytime light, especially early morning light, signals the body to release melatonin earlier in the evening. And the great news is this doesn't take long to shift. In a 2017 research report, they discovered that individuals who spend a weekend camping away from all screens and fluorescent lights found their melatonin begin to rise 1.4 hours earlier than usual. Those that camped out for a full week moved their melatonin release 2.6 hours earlier, in part because they were exposed to 13 times as much daylight as usual. In another study done in my hometown of San Diego, they found that the morning light was the most effective light that changed circadian rhythms. This was compared with evening bright light, daytime sleep restriction, and evening dim red light. The morning light made the circadian rhythm more robust. Again, though, in order to really shift your circadian rhythm, you have to stick to your new schedule and continue to get outside in the morning so you get that bright, natural morning light. Just sit outside for 10 to 15 minutes in the morning, drink your tea or coffee, meditate, listen to the birds, read, listen to an ebook, whatever it takes. Make it fun and pleasurable so that you look forward to spending this time and make it part of your morning routine. Now, this is absolutely for everyone, not just for those trying to shift their circadian rhythms. The morning light will help you sleep, period. For those whose schedules or locations, like Sweden in the winter, don't provide for bright morning light, unless you count the 10:30 in the morning and gray in Sweden in December, which I don't, a light box can help by mimicking natural light and creating a melatonin release. Then there is LED red light therapy. Margaret Naser, a research professor of neurology at the Boston University School of Medicine, studies the use of red light headsets and helmets to treat patients with traumatic brain injuries, stroke, and military veterans suffering from Gulf War syndrome. Dementia patients sleep terribly, which disables the body's natural ability to clear out any amyloid betas. Naser noted that red and near and infrared light increased melatonin levels, and that caregivers of dementia patients receiving red light treatments reported that the therapy greatly improved their sleeping habits. Another fantastic and free method is reducing stress through being social. When we're stressed, we often want to withdraw and go inward, creating a wall around ourselves from others. Then the stress can linger and grow, and we can put ourselves at risk for focusing on too much on our own distress. Being social is the key to turning all this around. So go out there and get social. Laugh and have a good time with friends. This is another great stress reducer and sleep enhancer, as a matter of fact. There are so many positive effects of social interactions. You have better increased heart rate variability, which shifts the nervous system into recovery mode. You're releasing hormones like oxytocin and vasopressin, which have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. Oxytocin also helps your heart repair. So, being with others literally fixes a broken heart. How about that? Although we may not always want to be social, the benefits of being with friends are so enormous. Some external fixes can sometimes help restore healthy sleep. Clinical psychologist Janet Kennedy says that a good mattress is incredibly important, but most people don't have one. Older mattresses break down and become uneven. They can't provide adequate support anymore, which often results in restlessness and inadequate sleep. Plus, they accumulate a tremendous amount of allergens over the years, which can further disrupt your sleep. According to a 2015 study, most people wait 11 years to replace their mattress, but you should make the switch after just 7. Weighted blankets have been gaining in popularity, and there's a real reason why. I love them. Neurologist W. Christopher Winter uses one himself and recommends them particularly for patients with restless leg syndrome. You know how swaddling babies helps them sleep and how we just love to have hugs? It's the same principle of giving this comforting pressure. A 2015 report supports the notion, finding that weighted blankets helped individuals to settle down and sleep more easily and to sleep longer. But in truth, the most common sleep difficulties are exacerbated by factors like illness and stress. If you can shift your thinking about it, sometimes the short-term sleep problems can be looked at as a good thing. It gives you more time to figure everything out. Acute insomnia is the gift of more time to get over your stressors. Now, it may be hard to see this in the moment, and it certainly is easier said than done. Many times the stress of not getting to sleep can bring on a cycle of anxiety. The less sleep you get, the more you worry, the harder it is to get back to sleep. Insomnia is typically triggered by something in the body or in your environment, like an illness or stress or loss or travel. But if you ruminate over these, it leads to behaviors that undermine your sleep, like spending too much time in bed or relying on caffeine during the day or even sleep aids at night. Just don't stress about it and remind yourself that it's variable from night to night. Weekly, remember. The next thing is to write down your worries with a pen and paper at night. Get it all out of your head. It helps. Then pick a book and read until you're ready to fall asleep again. And honestly, when you do experience acute insomnia, the best thing to do is simply nothing. Don't sleep in, don't nap, don't go to bed earlier. If you make changes like napping, trying to compensate, you'll disrupt your natural rhythm even more, and you'll wind up with chronic insomnia. You want to let the sleep pressure rise. You'll naturally cycle out of your insomnia. But if the stress is creating chronic insomnia, we need to go bigger to fix your sleep issues. And this starts with having a long period of rest. Most top athletes take 10 days to 1 month off a year. No training. They attribute this rest time to how they can sustain not being on top for 1 to 2 years, but for 10, 20, and even 30 years in some cases of long distance runners. The modern work week was set up to have this period of rest after the intense stress of Monday through Friday grind. But most people work on weekends now too. With such easy access to working like laptops and phones, people simply don't shut it off. And that gives them more stress and messes up their sleep. There is a high cost of not resting on the weekends, and it's a downward spiral. The quality of your work suffers, which leaves you feeling the pressure to work more on the weekends just to get caught up. If you're stuck in this cycle, try ending it next weekend. For at least 1 day, just shut it off. The benefits are worth it, and science proves it. The more you rest on the weekend, the more productive you will be the following week. You'll have better ideas, you'll solve problems easier, you'll be more creative, you'll be more decisive, and you'll have much better sleep. Rest days allow you to recover from the accumulated stress from the recent past and revitalize you so that you can push harder into the recent future. But sometimes the body needs a period a little bit longer, like a 2-week vacation. And this is a fantastic time to determine the amount of sleep you need, like I mentioned earlier. Take the 10 to 14 days of rest without an alarm clock and see how much your body actually needs a night. To the extent that you can, take the rest from stress. This will overall improve your sleep. BCG Consulting did a study where they forced their high-paying executives to take 1 day off a week. Now, for individuals that usually work 12 plus hours a day, 7 days a week, this was almost crazy talk and was a huge challenge in itself. Some literally complained that being part of the experiment was going to put their entire careers in jeopardy. But something happened during the experiment. They flipped their opinions. By the end of the experiment, everyone that participated wanted to keep this time off. They found they were far more productive at work, had greater problem-solving abilities, and they discovered it's not just about working the hours. It's about the quality in those hours worked. So I'm going to address age-related sleep issues in just a minute, but first I wanted to talk about naps. So what's the real story around napping? I get a lot of customers asking if it matters that all the 7 to 9 hours of sleep happen at night or at one time, and if they can make up for it by napping. The newest studies show that napping does not make up for a lack of nighttime sleep. You can't nap your way to health, physical or physiological. That said, napping does have its place, and it can restore energy and concentration during midday lulls. Naps can improve performance, concentration, judgment, and focus. NASA did a study on astronauts and found that a 25-minute nap improved judgment by 35%, vigilance by 16%. In a study that pitted napping versus coffee, a 15 to 20-minute nap way outperformed the afternoon coffee. Napping allows the parts of your brain that are always on when we're awake to just take a breather. It gives our brain the opportunity to just take a break. It's like when you're working out and your muscles need a short breather between sets, our brain does too. Sleep scientists found that 10 minutes yields the most benefits, but most experts say that anything under 30 minutes is effective, not more. Even if you don't actually fall asleep, Simply closing your eyes for 20 minutes can switch off the active part of your brain, allowing it to recover. However, a nap lasting longer than 30 minutes can be counterproductive. Often you can feel like you're even groggier and worse than before, like you've been run over by a train, like my brother likes to say. This is called sleep inertia. It occurs when we're woken up in the middle of a deep sleep cycle. It's the body's way of telling us to go back to sleep so it can finish what it started. Deep sleep generally doesn't start until after 30 minutes, which is why experts recommend keeping at the upper limit for your nap. If you're going to sleep longer, like when you're making up for, an earlier weekly sleep debt, be sure to sleep an entire sleep cycle, usually 90 minutes to 2 hours. Just remember, longer naps can interfere with nighttime sleep, which is far more important. So if they interfere, keep your naps to 30 minutes or less. The most effective time for a nap is after lunch, but before 3 p.m., according to a 2017 study. Such brief naps almost immediately reduce sleepiness and they improve cognitive performance. Best of all, the benefits can last for up to 3 hours. The next time you're, feeling a little midday slump, consider taking a short nap. Companies like Google and Apple are jumping on the nap wagon and have nap rooms for their employees. So let's talk about getting age-appropriate sleep. A 2-year-old requires up to 14 hours of sleep a night, and a 9-year-old needs about 12, while everyone else above 15 needs about 7 to 9 hours, and this includes the elderly. When tweens and teens don't get enough sleep, the effects are felt in the amygdala, which is our prehistoric fear and survival center, and the prefrontal cortex, which is the area of our brain reserved for higher thinking, and that's what makes us human. This can lead to a greater chance of engaging in some risky behaviors. One study showed that high schoolers who slept less than 6 hours a night were 2 times as likely to use alcohol, tobacco, or marijuana as those who slept 8 hours, and were 3 times as likely to consider or attempt suicide. What's odd, though, is that adolescents and teenagers have a 2-hour shift in the release of their melatonin. That means that most of them don't get sleepy until around 11 p.m. and makes them natural night owls. That wouldn't be a big deal, except for our schools typically start at 8 a.m., meaning kids have to be up at least an hour before that. At 6 a.m., kids' bodies are still releasing high levels of melatonin, making them extremely sleepy and lethargic and grumpy. For kids that just can't get to sleep before 11, naps after school may be the answer to get them caught up on their sleep, or simply let them sleep in on the weekends. Of course, 20-year-olds can recover pretty well from just about any inconsistent sleep. We all remember being able to stay out, all night in our 20s and bounce right back. But by our late 30s and 40s, we lose that ability. There is a big misperception that older adults require less sleep than others, and that's simply not the case. People over 65 need the same 7 to 9 hours sleep as they did when they were 15. But changes to our sleep patterns are a normal part of aging. The National Sleep Foundation said that as people age, they tend to have a harder time falling asleep and more trouble staying asleep. They also report being less satisfied with sleep and more tired during the day. Studies show that older Americans take longer to fall asleep and get less REM sleep. They typically wake up much more often during the night. And that's usually because with advanced aging, the normal sleep cycle begins to break down. Nearly half of all older adults complain of difficulty sleeping. The rates of sleep apnea and insomnia tend to increase with age as well. In the National Sleep Foundation's 2003 Sleep in America poll, 44% of older people experience one or more of the nighttime symptoms of insomnia at least a few nights per week or more. The worst thing you can do is assume your sleep issues are simply because you're older. Most sleep conditions at any age are treatable. Researchers suggest that many of the sleep issues in the older population could be attributed to physical and psychiatric illnesses and the medications used to treat them. And I'm going to go into these in detail on medications in just a minute. Not to mention that older adults experience substantially less bright light exposure than their younger counterparts. And we've already gone into a lot of detail over how important the bright morning light is. There are also social and environmental factors that affect those over 65. Isolation is a big one. 1 in 3 elderly people are lonely. 1 in 3. It really just breaks my heart. Many have a poor social support system or too much financial or physical stress and don't do the amount of physical activity they should. When I talked about a good night's sleep starts in the morning, exercise is also a very important piece of this. If you're not working out, it can affect your sleep. Even retirement and sedentary lifestyles contribute to insomnia in older people. And as we now know, this creates hypertension and heart disease, stroke, diabetes, increases the risk of falling and breaking hips. Researchers have shown that it even increases the risk of getting cancer, chronic kidney and liver disease. Insomnia causes chronic inflammation in the body. The inflammation leads to insulin resistance, which is now being shown to be a major cause of Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is even called type 3 diabetes now due to the insulin response. But that risk starts decades before. A case study from Taiwan reported that primary insomnia in people below 40 years old increased the risk of dementia twofold. In most elderly, basic sleep hygiene will suffice if done correctly for an extended period of time. But remember, it's about taking the holistic approach and correcting almost everything I've talked about so far. Kelly, my health specialist that's on with us today, again, say, "Hi Kelly," confessed to having chronic insomnia since she was in grade school. She said she had to find the perfect combination of sleep hygiene techniques to combat her 40-year insomnia. But she did it. Medication for all ages should be the last resort. But before we talk about medications and all natural supplements you can take safely, I want to go through how to solve more severe cases of insomnia using cognitive behavioral therapy. Now, I'm not a specialist, and this is just a cursory glance at CBT. If you have chronic insomnia, please get professional help. You're worth it. For 20% of people, as many as 40 million Americans, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, short-term acute insomnia does become chronic. I always advise getting help as soon as possible before it becomes chronic, even as soon as 2 weeks after sleep problems have persisted. Unfortunately, people often go to their primary care physician who will say, "It'll pass," and maybe prescribe a sleeping pill before addressing sleep hygiene or trying cognitive behavioral therapy. There is a time and a place for medication, but relying only on it is a big mistake. CBT will help in most cases of insomnia where the basic sleep hygiene techniques I talked about have failed to eliminate the problem. This is for people who have had trouble sleeping more than 3 nights a week for more than 3 months. Michael Perillis, director of the Behavioral Sleep Medicine program at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, suggests delaying bedtime by the equivalent amount of time that insomnia is taking away. That means if it's taking you 8 hours of lying in bed to get 6 hours of sleep, you're experiencing 2 hours of insomnia. This extra 2 hours of lying there, frustrated, tends to only make insomnia worse. You should move your bedtimes 2 hours later than usual to sync up your sleep ability to stay asleep. That will curtail the time spent in bed to eliminate insomnia. Then the patient is only allowed to be in bed for the total amount of time they sleep, plus 15 minutes. So if they normally sleep 5.75 hours, they can be in bed for 6 hours. They must go to bed and get up at the same time every day. So if they normally wake up at 6:30 a.m., they have to stay awake till 12:30 at night. Napping is not allowed for this type of therapy. When sleep efficiency is about 85%, they can go to bed 15 minutes earlier, and this process is simply repeated until they can sleep for the desired amount of time, 7 to 9 hours. Another big cause of sleep interruption is snoring. It is the primary cause of sleep problems for 90 million Americans, 37 million on a regular basis. Snoring is very common in those that are overweight and become worse with age. Loud snoring is particularly dangerous and can be a symptom of sleep apnea and associated with high blood pressure. Sleep apnea is when a person stops breathing during the night for up to 1 minute. You can imagine what starving your brain of oxygen multiple times a night over years or even decades will do to your brain and body. Untreated sleep apnea puts a person at risk for heart attacks, depression, headaches, memory loss, strokes, and Alzheimer's. It is serious, but it's so easily treated. Usually a mask is worn at night that puts continuous pressure on the airway. An oral dental device can also be tried, but it's more cost effective and a lot less intrusive, but it doesn't always work as well. You can always lose weight. Since sleep apnea is from a closure of the airway from fatty tissue, losing weight oftentimes will help solve the issue. The last issue before I talk about common sleep aid drugs and supplements is restless leg syndrome. That one's hard to say. This is a neurological movement disorder where you have an irresistible urge to move your limbs, usually your legs at night. It's unpleasant, you get this tingling, creeping feeling, and it becomes usually worse at night when you're sleeping. 10% of Americans have RLS, and it's usually treated with a combination of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and prescription drugs. More natural treatments are available, but may not work for everyone. Iron supplementation may be all it takes for some people, but many doctors don't even know about it. Considering how I feel about prescription drugs, this would be my first route. Which brings me to the last segment of my workshop, sleep medications and supplements. This is usually everyone's go-to when they can't sleep, but it can also be the most dangerous. Many sleeping pills, especially prescription sleeping pills, can be extremely addictive. 8 out of 10 of them cause dependency. They mess with the body's own production and release of melatonin and GABA, which is a chemical that shuts down all the signals in your brain so that you can go to sleep, kind of like a stop sign in your brain for all the activity going on. In the elderly, this is becoming a big problem. Many elderly will get sleeping pills from their family physician, which can be continued for years without supervision. Or it's common that they complain about it to their friends, and their friends then share or suggest the sleeping pill they're using. The big issue with this is that most elderly are on other prescription drugs, and sleeping pills can easily interfere with them, even making them useless. All prescription sleeping pills have risks, especially for people with certain medical conditions, including liver or kidney disease. But it's a double-edged sword. As we get older, we get health problems that contribute to a poor night's sleep. Whether it's high blood pressure or a broken hip, these ailments prevent us from getting a good night's sleep. Then we're given drugs for these same ailments that also add to our sleeping problems. They can make it very hard to either fall asleep or stay asleep. Many people are aware of the risks of prescription sleeping pills. So what do? They go to their local pharmacy and reach for the over-the-counter sleeping pills, including melatonin. Occasionally, and over a period of a few months, it becomes a regular use. Most people won't increase the dose, but they will continue to use it every single day, just for the fear of not being able to fall asleep. Did you know that the US is the only country where you don't need a prescription for melatonin? It's a little interesting. I've mentioned melatonin a lot, but what is it exactly? Melatonin is a hormone in your body that acts as a daily synchronizer of your circadian rhythms. With age, melatonin levels naturally decrease. On a short-term basis or for the random night here or there, taking an OTC melatonin can improve your sleep efficiency without increasing your total sleep time. But some caution here. When replacing your natural melatonin with synthesized OTC melatonin, watch your doses. Sleep doctor Dr. Michael Bruce says that many people take melatonin incorrectly, and that can increase the likelihood of side effects in the short term. The appropriate dose for melatonin is somewhere between 0.5 and 1.5 milligrams. If you look around, almost nobody sells that. They sell it at 3, 5, 10, and the other day I saw one selling for 20 milligrams. So most people are actually overdosing themselves on melatonin, Dr. Bruce says. Most people take melatonin when they're already having trouble sleeping, but most pill forms of melatonin take 90 minutes to have any effect at all. You couldn't pick a worse time to take melatonin than at 2 o'clock in the morning. Short-term, melatonin does have side effects. It can give you headaches, dizziness, or even nausea. And melatonin can interact negatively with various medications, including anticoagulants and antiplatelet drugs, which I know a lot of elderly are on, anticonvulsants, contraceptive drugs, diabetes, and even medications that suppress the immune system. Melatonin is not a long-term solution. In one long-term study, the positive effects of daily use disappeared after just 6 months and were completely gone after 1 year. Also, the quality of life parameter, vitality in the subjects never improved. And long-term, it can have the opposite effect. Long-term usage of melatonin can alter natural hormone levels and even sabotage your sleep. MIT neurologist Dr. Richard Wertman, he's actually the melatonin supplement creator, said that they may work at first, but you'll stop responding because you desensitize the brain. And as a consequence, not only will you not be able to respond to the stuff you take, you won't be able to respond to the stuff you make. So it actually can promote insomnia after a period of time. Did you get that? You won't even respond to the natural melatonin you make. That's no good. So with that said, what can you take that is safe long-term, won't interfere with prescription drugs, nor your body's own production of melatonin and GABA? I asked myself this for a while. Then I decided to create my own supplement that follows all of my strict guidelines for dosage and purity and came up with Mind Boost Night. If you want to completely stop being anxious and full of worry every night while trying to fall asleep, and instead quickly drift off to sleep in a calm and peaceful manner, and even stay asleep all night, wake up refreshed, mind crackling with energy, ready to soar through your day, then consider trying Mind Boost Night in addition to changing your sleep hygiene. You can shift every area of your life into high gear, your thinking, your overall health, and your emotions by just getting more and better quality sleep. Then everything just starts working better. Your focus and attention are laser sharp. You will see your health start to improve as your body systems begin to function better. Your moods improve along with your attitudes, making for an easier and happier day. You can stop stressing and start focusing on making your life like you always dreamt of. When I set out to create Mind Boost Night, I looked to find the most influential and natural ingredients that would have the biggest impact on my brain health and, of course, sleep. I read through hundreds of clinical studies and trials to find the absolute best ingredients I could get. They had to be safe. This is my brain after all, right? Earlier I mentioned a chemical your body produces called GABA. GABA is a neurotransmitter that helps you turn your brain off at night and allows your brain to go into repair mode. If you don't have enough GABA in your brain, it never gets the signals to shut down and allow you to go to sleep. That, along with the shortage of melatonin, is exactly why you lie there staring at the ceiling, frustrated and angry, and just can't fall asleep. In Japan, scientists discovered that GABA supplementation worked effectively as a natural relaxant. The effects could be seen within 1 hour of taking the supplement to induce relaxation and reduce anxiety. Imagine going to bed and simply just falling asleep. Can you see yourself doing that? Once you're asleep, your brain requires powerful adaptogens to help repair the damage done by the stress chemical cortisol. Ashwagandha root is one of the best adaptogens I have found. The stress chemical cortisol eats away at the part of your brain that stores and recalls memories, called the hippocampus. The more cortisol you have in your system, the less able you are to recall and store new memories. The Indian Journal of Psychology of Medicine found that ashwagandha root reduces stress and anxiety in adults. The findings of this study suggest that a high concentration, full-spectrum ashwagandha root extract safely and effectively improves an individual's resistance towards stress and thereby improves self-assessed quality of life. And ashwagandha is an antioxidant and boosts your immune system. 300 milligrams of ashwagandha extract for 60 days in people with chronic mental stress was able to improve all tested parameters and reduce serum cortisol by 27.9%. We also have a high dose of chamomile extract in a Mind Boost Night. A recent study out of Amsterdam showed in a double-blind controlled placebo study that chamomile extract therapy in patients with mild to moderate generalized anxiety disorder had a significantly greater reduction in anxiety versus the placebo. Not only that, high doses of chamomile may have clinically meaningful antidepressant activity that occurs in addition to its previously observed anti-anxiety effect. Sounded good to be true? I know. I thought so too until I tried it. The other active ingredients in Mind Boost Night actually help your brain recover and improve your brain health and memory while you sleep. We included rhodiola rosea as it has a pronounced effect on daytime mental fatigue, stress, and anxiety. A study testing the fatigue of students caused by stress during final exams showed that over a 20-day period, the students participating in the study achieved an 8.4% better grades than the students taking the placebo. The next ingredient in our Mind Boost Night is L-theanine. L-theanine is one of the main active ingredients found in green tea, and only green tea. It's not found anywhere else. It helps promote relaxation without the caffeine found in green tea. L-theanine is an amino acid and has been shown to give notable increases in relaxation within 30 minutes to an hour of taking it. Now, the correct dosage for L-theanine to support the clinical trials is 100 to 400 milligrams. As one of the last main ingredients in Mind Boost Night, we included Melissa officinalis, or lemon balm. It's an herb that induces calmness, and it has been used effectively for centuries in reducing stress and helping cope with anxiety. A randomized control study found that lemon balm was able to reduce the perception of stress and improve calmness during a controlled stress test. That's why I included these natural plant-based ingredients in the only sleep supplement that is created specifically to be taken every night to be safe, non-addictive, and actually help improve your brain while you sleep. Nothing exists like Mind Boost Night. It took 16 months of research and analysis of hundreds of research papers to finally create the Mind Boost Night formula. 2 capsules about 60 minutes before you go to bed helps you relax and fall asleep. Sleep well every single night without the concern of addiction or even worse, the loss of REM sleep like most sleep aids cause. And you can stay asleep all night. The active natural ingredients in Mind Boost Night help calm your anxiety so that you don't continue to wake up over and over throughout the night. You get a great night's sleep. Mind Boost Night gives your brain the ability to rejuvenate while you sleep so you can start every single day with the sharpest brain possible. Give your brain the optimal levels of researched ingredients that help your brain process, repair, and rejuvenate while you sleep. But if you purchased all these ingredients separately, you'd pay about $150 per month. Mind Boost Night is the only all-in-one supplement that helps you relax and wake up rested and rejuvenated. And you can only get it directly from us at Simple Smart Science. My friend Rob, who's an expert in supplement evaluations and runs a supplement critique website, says, usually I wake up at least once a night to take a piss, probably because I drink a ton of water throughout the day. For the first time in a long time, though, I did not wake up once throughout the entire night. I can't even begin to tell you how much more productive I felt that next day. Normally, I take a nap around mid-afternoon, but I felt absolutely no need to throughout the whole day. My energy and focus was also very elevated, and I, again, was accomplishing tasks at a much faster rate. The research it took to create this formula was staggering. Hundreds and hundreds of placebo-controlled research studies were evaluated. These are the gold standard double-blind research papers. The Simple Smart Science research team, with more than 80 years combined research experience, collaborated to create this incredible breakthrough in brain health. This supplement is absolutely unique. You cannot buy it anywhere else. So at this point, you have to be asking yourself, anything this good with so much impact on so many areas of my life has to be expensive, right? Well, here's the catch. The research and manufacturing team at Simple Smart Science demanded the highest quality ingredients possible. Ingredients sourced within the United States using strict quality control guidelines. Each ingredient was analyzed using a form of MRI technology called high performance liquid chromatography, HPLC, which verifies the purity of an ingredient on the molecular level. It can take a very long time to go through this with ingredients to get a new batch of Mind Boost Night in stock. But because you're here right now in this workshop, I know you need help with your sleep. So I'm going to give you a very special price for the next 2 hours after this workshop is over. As you saw earlier, if you were to go out and buy each of these ingredients individually, if you can even find them, you would be paying over $150 per month. Plus, you would have to trust your sleep and brain health to a bunch of different supplements and experiment with different dosages until you discovered the optimal one, like the one found in Mind Boost Night. And you run the risk of spending much more money on lower quality ingredients and probably little or no results. So, let me take 1 second and add this up for you. With Mind Boost Night, you get the optimum dosages with these incredible ingredients, in which, if purchased separately, would run you around $150, like I said, a month. You work hard from sunup to sundown and follow good sleep hygiene. Now you try Mind Boost Night for a few months and all of a sudden you're sleeping longer and better and your days become less painful. Remember, a lack of sleep decreases your pain threshold by 15%. You're more joyous and they're more memorable. I hope you're beginning to see how improving your sleep affects absolutely everything in your life and just how valuable that can be. Garrett, a longtime customer, shared his experience. I bought my business over 3 years ago and noticed a decrease in my quality of sleep. I had a hard time shutting off my thoughts and relaxing each night. Once I did fall asleep, I was waking up at 3 a.m. and struggling to get back to sleep. After taking these supplements, I noticed a shift in these patterns. The best part is I feel alert the next day. Alicia, another customer, shared her experience. I love the night supplement. I tried it for 5 days and slept through every single night. Please don't forget, as I mentioned before, it takes a long time to get a new batch, so it's first come, first serve on this workshop today, and I know there'll be a high demand, especially with the discount I'm going to give you. For you here now, you won't pay the $150 a month like you would if you bought the ingredients separately. You won't even pay $85. Since you recognize the significant impact that Mind Boost Night can have on your life, you can get a full 1 month supply of Mind Boost Night for only $39. That is $1.25 a day, less than a cup of coffee at a fancy coffee shop, which of course is inhibiting your sleep. For the best sleep and rest you have ever experienced, get Mind Boost Night. And I'll guarantee you'll see results. You see, I know not everything works for everyone, and I do get this. So many people claim they've tried everything. But if you try the techniques I outlined above and include Mind Boost Night into your nightly routine, then I know you'll see results. But if you're not 100% thrilled, I'll give you your money back, all of it, even if you've taken every last capsule. If you're not 100% excited about Mind Boost Night, simply call 1-800-503-2911 or send an email to us at support@simplesmartscience.com and we'll refund 100% of your purchase up to 120 days. That's 6 full months to try Mind Boost Night. And if you order today and get our best value package deal of a 4-month supply, the price drops down to $27.30 a bottle. That's less than 88 cents a day to enjoy consistent quality sleep. Sarah Buck said, "The results were amazing. I was skeptical at first, but it really has made me sharper and more focused. You really should try it." I'm also going to give you a copy of my popular book with your order, The Brain Owner's Manual, 3 simple solutions for quickly boosting your memory. There are over 45,000 copies of this book in print, and it normally retails for $14.95. But it's yours for free with your order today. It gives you a detailed action plan to start doing the things I talked about today, as well as a memory test to see how your memory is functioning today. This test was created by world-renowned neuroscientist Dr. Majid Fatoui, and we're using it with his permission. One customer said that this book gave her the motivation to really follow through on the action plans from this workshop. So go ahead and click on the Yes, I Want to Get Good Sleep button to the right if you're on desktop and below this presentation if you're on mobile. Mind Boost Night offers you a natural solution to help you fall asleep and help your brain recover while you sleep. And we use only the absolute best ingredients and GMP manufacturing regulated by the US Food and Drug Administration and years of research and science. No other company puts their money where their mouth is, plus promises to give you a 100% refund even if you use all the product. Nowhere else are you going to get the unparalleled support to improving your life, the latest research and brain health and performance. Only the people on this workshop are going to have access to this special offer, so you have to act fast. If you order in the next 2 hours after this workshop is over, I will make an even better offer for you. Order now and you'll save an additional 10% off. Just use the coupon code SLEEP. Just click on the Yes, I Want Good Sleep button and enter the coupon code SLEEP. Only the lucky few who order now will get this incredible discount and opportunity to see firsthand the amazing results of Mind Boost Night. Fall asleep easily and stay asleep all night. Wake up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, ready to tackle the day. Think for a moment about your life leading up to right now. If you don't invest in yourself, change your sleep patterns, and try Mind Boost Night, what is going to change in your life? You still going to struggle with your sleep, suffer more anger and pain from a lack of sleep? You will still be lying there at night, night after night, staring at the ceiling, crawling out of bed the next morning, exhausted, only to struggle through yet another day, being a shadow of your former self. Don't do this. Let me summarize with this. What we're talking about here is really new thinking with cutting-edge science. We're talking about moving away from sleeping pills and sedatives and into brain health supplements, which will help your brain fall asleep naturally. We're talking about a research-based product with premium ingredients, top-level manufacturing, and absolutely the best brain nutrition and sleep supplement you can find. Once you start replenishing your brain with these critical nutrients, you should see pretty radical improvements in all areas of your life. That's because your brain is the absolute control center for everything in your life. Mostly, I like to think you're going to feel better overall, have more energy, both mental and physical, when you start making some of the changes I talked about today and taking your Mind Boost Night. You should be able to simply go to bed without anxiety, fear, and possibly harmful drugs. And you should experience improvements in your memory, retention, and recall. You should become much more productive with greater focus and attention. You should see improvements in your moods. A more balanced brain will stop those wild emotional mood swings. Over time, you should see improvements in your overall health as your brain gets healthier and all your body systems work better than they are now. Your brain literally affects everything in your life. If you are not taking care of it and giving your brain the best nutrition, you are not only shortchanging yourself, you are shortchanging everything in your life. If you're taking any other supplements, exercising, and eating right, Mind Boost Night and a great night's sleep should enhance all the benefits of them as well. You can order Mind Boost Night, use the 10% off coupon code SLEEP, and see what a difference it makes in your life for a full 120 days or your money back. I want to take all the risk and invite you to join me today. You will not regret it. Click on the Yes, I Want a Good Night's Sleep button, save 10% with the coupon code SLEEP, and place your order today. Thank you everyone so much for being with me here today to learn about all the new science of sleep. I'm honored you spent your time with me, and I wish for you a great night's sleep. Thank you so much.